Hey guys, welcome back to the Curly Reader. My name's Amanda, and today we're going to be talking about my TBR for Historathon 3.0. Okay, so if you missed our announcement video, it will be linked down below, but Historathon is a month-long readathon throughout the entire month of November, in which my co-hosts Lindsay from Lindsay's Little Library and Gloria from Gloria Z. Thompson are all encouraging you to read historical fiction. So we came up with this really fun theme this year, A Stitch in Time, in which we will start with one book, and each book that you pick up subsequently after that will reference the book that you read before it. So we're going on a little bit of a journey, and I'm going to be sharing each of the prompts and which book I will be reading for that prompt with you today. All right, so the first book that I am going to be reading for the readathon is The Lost Girls of Willowbrook by Ellen Marie Wiseman. This is going to count for our first prompt, which is to read a book with Lost in the title. This is also our group book, which we will be having a group discussion of on November 30th on my channel at 8 p.m. Eastern. And so Lindsay and Gloria and I will all be discussing this. This is a book that is about the Willowbrook Institute in Staten Island, New York, and a girl that ends up there, I believe. I don't really know much more about it other than I've heard many people raving about it. I have heard it's very heavy, it's a little dark, and I think this is going to be a really good one for a lot of good discussion. So yeah, this is the first book that I'm going to be reading. The next prompt is to read a book from a different, or set in a different country than your previous book. And so I decided to read They Went Left by Monica Hesse. This is a book that takes place in Germany, which this takes place in the United States. So yeah, Germany is different. This is a World War II historical fiction about a girl who ends up in a concentration camp, I believe, and or it's post World War II, and it is about a girl who's trying to find family members who were sent a different direction in a concentration camp, I think. So I decided to go with this one. The prompt after that is to read a book with a similar cover, and so I decided to go with a color similarity, and I decided to go with The Rose Code for this, by Kate Quinn. This is another World War II historical fiction that I have heard amazing things about. This is about a group of women code breakers, I believe. Maybe one code breaker, maybe a group. I honestly am not really sure, but regardless, I'm excited to read it. I've heard really good things about it. All right, the next prompt is to, oops, I got out of order a little bit. Okay, the next prompt is to read a book from a different decade than your previous one. So this one takes place during World War II in the 1930s, maybe the 1940s, and the one I decided to read for a different decade is Homegoing by Yagasi. This takes place, it starts in the 1700s and goes kind of from there, but the majority of this will be taking place in a decade that is not the 1930s or 1940s. So this is a book about two, I believe, sisters in Africa, and one is, I believe, eventually marries someone in government, and the other one is captured and becomes a slave, and so, or becomes enslaved, and ends up in America, I believe, and that's really all I know about this one. I read Yagasi's other book, Transcendent Kingdom, and loved it. I've heard this one is very different from that one, but I still have really high hopes for this one, so I'm very excited about that. All right, the prompt after this is to read a book whose author's last name starts with the same letter as this book. So G, I decided to go with a Hazel Gaynor book, and I will be reading When We Were Young and Brave by Hazel Gaynor. This is a book that is also World War II, China, 1941, and it has to do with some European students that were sent to China as part of the China Inland Mission School, and then World War II breaks out, and it's about their experience there during World War II, I believe. And so, yeah, I'm really excited. And then the prompt after that is to read a book that has fewer pages than this one. This one has 400 and, let's see, oh, not the acknowledgements. Okay, this one has 420 pages, and I decided to pick up for a book with fewer pages The Door of No Return by Kwame Alexander. I am so excited to be reading this book. This is a new release that I pre-ordered by Kwame Alexander. It is a book in verse about the Door of No Return, which is a doorway that most slaves pass through on their trip to America. So it's a doorway in a town in Africa that the slave trade ran through, and most slaves walked through this doorway before they were boarded onto ships and sent to America. This book has 405, no, a little fewer than that. That's the acknowledgments. So 398 pages, so barely under, but it still counts. So this is the book that I will be reading for that. All right, and then the next prompt is to read a book whose protagonist is of a different race than your previous book. This is an African main character, and so I decided for the next book I would pick up Bridge of Scarlet Leaves by Christina McMorris, another World War II historical fiction. I'm really hoping I'm not going to burn myself out on this, but we shall see. This has to do with a woman who falls in love with a Japanese-American man, and then Pearl Harbor happens, and things kind of go from there. I am very excited to read Christina McMorris for the first time. I've never read her before, and I really, really, really want to, so I'm excited for this. The next prompt is to read a book that is blurbed by the author of your previous book. This kind of the wires got crossed, I think, between me and the other co-hosts, and so you can either read a book that is blurbed by the author of your previous book, or you can read a book that the author of your next blurb that is blurbed by, read a book that the author blurbed your previous book. That was very confusing. So for example, this book is blurbed by Karen White, so you could read a book by Karen White. I chose to read a book that is blurbed by Christina McMorris, and for that, I'm sorry, that was very confusing, and hopefully that makes sense now. You can do it either way, and it's totally fine. We're not policing this. I'm reading a book blurbed by Christina McMorris, and that is The Next Ship Home by Heather Webb. It is blurbed on the back. It says, a wonderfully immersive novel, Webb illuminates a dark side of America, too often lost to history, an important, timely read featuring, an important, timely read featuring a cast I love to root for. Christina McMorris. So, The Next Ship Home, it says, a young Italian woman arrives on the shores of America, her sights set on a better life. That same day, a young American woman reports on her first day of work at an immigration center, but Ellis Island isn't a refuge for Francesca or Alma, not when ships depart every day with those who are refused entry to the country, when corruption ripples through every corridor, while Francesca resorts to desperate measures to ensure she will make it off the island. Alma fights for her dreams of becoming a translator, even as women are denied the chance. So it's about these two different women. This sounds so good. So I'm excited to read this. All right, the next and last prompt of Historathon is to read a book that has the same number of letters in the title as your previous book. I said this wrong in my announcement video, and I'm correcting myself here. It is read a book with the same number of letters. Well, The Next Ship Home has 15 letters in the title. Yes? Okay, 15 letters in the title. I picked 2 books for this prompt because by the end of this, who knows what kind of mood I'm going to be in. So I picked 2. The first one is Rules for Civility by Amor Towles. This is the only Amor Towles book I have not read yet. It is 1920s, I think, set in the summer. That's really all I know about it. The other one that I picked is The River of Kings by Taylor Brown. I went to Savannah earlier this year and picked up 3 Taylor Brown books unknown to me before I got home and realized they were all by the same author. Taylor Brown is a local author to Savannah, and this is one of the books I picked up, and I really want to read it. And so this has to do with some brothers who are traveling down a river to honor their late father, and so you're getting their point of view, but then you're also getting the point of view of the first settlers that rode down the river when they first came to America, I believe. And so I'm interested to read both of these, and they both have 15 letters in the title. So those are all the books that I'm planning on reading for Historathon, but I do have one other book that I am planning on reading in November that I also wanted to share with you, and that is 11/22/63 by Stephen King. This was gifted to me by Sarah from Sarah's Nightstand, and it is real thick. So I am planning on listening to the audiobook of this and breaking it into 4 chunks and kind of having a weekly goal to read this throughout the month. If you are interested in doing that with me, please feel free to reach out to me either via email or on my Instagram account and let me know. I would love to kind of set up a little Voxer channel. If you're unfamiliar with that, once again, reach out on one of those 2 platforms and I will let you know. But inform you more about what Voxer is and how it works. But I would love to set up a little Voxer chat for this book. This is about the assassination of JFK. It has to do with time travel and someone trying to prevent the assassination of JFK. And so, yeah, I really, really want to get this read though. So this is going to be my other goal for Historathon. So that's it. If you've read any of these books, I would love to hear about your experience with them down below. I would also love to hear what you're planning on reading for Historathon. What are you the most excited for? I really, really hope that you are as excited for Historathon as Lindsay and Gloria and I are, and that's going to do it for today. So I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you stick around and subscribe. And until next time, see ya.